Fire Tribe, where you at?
I hope you're ready. Rising from the ashes and it's getting heavy. Conspiracies, we got plenty and some are scary. From aliens to Bigfoot, extraordinary. Yeah. Anunnaki Dan and the homie Romy. I was bugging out all the crazy things he showed me. Jesus bloodlines to the stars in the skies. Always a good time vibing with the Fire Tribe. Hey, so wake up, get it cracking. Rise out the ashes, I know you got a passion. Kick off the convo with theories, many conspiracies, other dimensions, plenty ancient history. Fire Tribe, where you at? Wake up. We about to get into it. I know you can't get enough. At home, at work, it don't matter. Turn it up. Rising from the ashes. You know what's up. Hey. Rising from the ashes.
Yo, what's up, Fire Tribe? Welcome to
Rising
from the motherfucking ashes. Welcome to Divine Feminine Month and the group show. Today on the show, we have Rachel Munoz. Got Buffalo and Legs from False Reality Check, and back with us, Elaine. How's it going, everybody? Say hello.
It's going good.
You there?
Hi.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
Rachel, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Because I'm not too familiar with you, other than you co-host on Odins Alchemy with Benjamin Balderson.
Yeah, I've been doing just a rune series with him, and we're going to dive into the Poetic Edda, talking about all those stories from the masculine and feminine perspective. So that'll start next month.
Excellent.
I frequent Weaving Spiders Welcome. Sometimes I do some interverse, do some art, kind of just study whatever, kind of a mystic, kind of just myself.
Cool.
Yeah.
Buffalo and Legs. Tell us a little bit about yourselves. How saucy you are.
Do you want to take that? The Divine Feminine?
Oh my gosh. Well, I am Legs, and this is my husband, Buffalo. We are co-host of False Reality Check, which is a podcast we started together when we were back in Cali, Southern California, to be exact. And, you know, we had corporate jobs, did the whole city life, materialistic lifestyle, and long story short, mushroom trip, completely 180, and decided that we wanted to be more self-sufficient, live a life that we truly deserve. Got pushed out of our jobs / quit our jobs, moved out of Cali. Now we're in Idaho, and we're just kind of chronicling that journey, looking at conspiracies, things that are presented to us that we know this false reality gets manipulated. I guess I don't know how to explain it. Go for it.
Yeah, we just kind of want to break the barrier, the wall that's behind everything.
Yeah, I didn't want to say matrix because
I don't know, that could be a good thing because it means womb.
Yeah,
but I think we just wanted to break through and leaving our jobs, and now we're working for ourselves. Kind of makes us live a more present life, where before we were go, very rat race, and now it's like, what are we going to do today? You know, everything's kind of like an adventure, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and just reconnecting with ourselves too, our inner masculine and divine feminine.
Yeah, let's reconnect with that a little bit right now. Let's kind of get into that. You said break on through to the other side, right? It's kind of what we do when we're born, right? We come through the creatrix, the womb matrix, right? And come into this life. So does anybody have anything else to go on off of that?
I think it's kind of funny that it's like it's pushed like break out of the matrix, get out of there. Like it's really like pushed on people. Yeah. But it's actually just a very natural process if you're aware, or if you have somebody to guide you, or if the right conditions allow you to learn. Which is, I think it's funny because the system sets people up to be super blind and then forces them into like a forced initiation, like a forced birth. It's very bizarre.
It's one matrix into another, you know, it's one form into another function and form, you know, and it's, I was kind of going on today with a pal a good old pal, about simulation, because I was told to watch Free Guy, right? Like, oh, Free Guy it's a great movie, and I was just like, dear God, there's no good movies anymore, but I'll give it a chance. And it was all right, it was whatever. Ryan Reynolds is hot. So actually, I liked that one movie I saw with him back in the day. He's kind of a babe, whatever. Anywho, Jesus Christ, I divert. And it's simulation is like a controlled set of rules or parameters of something set from an ulterior force or something outside of that rules and parameters, something that gives those rules and parameters. And that's everything. Everything has rules and parameters within some sort of threshold. On a cellular level, we have a cellular simulation. You have these rules, regulations that are given by the body parts that have an ulterior source that puts that simulation on that, right? That puts these very beautiful form and function into that. And so those things can metamorphosize or transmute and transform. But it's one simulation to the next, it's like breaking through to these levels, and we'll never be out of the, any sort of algorithm or any sort of matrix or any sort of simulation. We're always going to be within that because life is that. But we have societal simulation, which is here on the physical plane society. Then you have the cosmic reality, which is like a cosmological simulation, which has its rules and parameters and edges and, levels of consciousness and stuff.
Yeah, agreed. And it's interesting. The more you get out of that city environment, that whole go rat race mentality, the more you're able to connect with nature, with yourself. And kind of, for me lately, what I've been doing is kind of trying to understand, not to get too personal, but my cycles and how in a way, each part of that cycle is similar to the seasons we go through, and trying to connect with what I feel at each stage, and going with that. And same with men, like you guys go through different cycles, may not be like menstrual related, but I'm sure I'm not too familiar with that. But if we go through cycles, you guys definitely have to go through cycles. And it's just connecting with yourself, trying to understand, how am I feeling today? I don't know, simple things like that. And you'll just start connecting with source, God, whatever you want to call it, more.
Yeah. I think one of the things that we talked about this month was the whole aspect of the goddess and the kind of the removal of the goddess in history. It seems like we went through like a matriarchal, omniarchal, I guess, society with man and woman both being able to have rule or dominion over people as goddesses. And then we kind of came into a patriarchal society, and we have lost that goddess aspect, and now it's become more masculine, and everything has been demonized about the female. And as a male, it's hard for me to talk about that thing. So that's what you girls are here for, is to help guide us through what struggles and things that you have to deal with in the society that we live in now, that you're kind of more aware of or in tune to than what we would ever be. And what are those kind of hurdles that you have to go through in society to just try to be fit in or be aware of, if that makes sense. Probably not.
Totally.
No, it does. Rachel, you want to take it, or
Rachel?
I can.
Go for it, or I can.
I thought of that story I told you guys the last time I saw you about the mask that I made. So one thing that I've noticed is balancing nature and natural reactions when it comes to attraction and sexuality. Because I think, telling people to totally not react to each other is just stupid. That's just not logical. It's never going to happen, because that's just how humans are. We're very attracted to each other because we're meant to be. So just kind of navigating ways to make that fun without destroying other people or leading people on, all kinds of stuff like that. So the story I told on False Reality Check was I had to wear a mask for work. Sorry, guys, I did. But I did not want to wear those garbage masks that they were passing out. So I made one, and I went to the fabric store and found like wedding material, because like something on my face is going to be breathable if I have to wear this all day. So I made this mask, and it was so weird because I would have men come in, and I worked in an office environment with like different types of businesses. Like my office, there's like a shared workspace. So we had a lot of attorneys come in, but people would start making extremely sexual comments at me, like incredibly inappropriate for the workplace type of thing. Like, I've been around all kinds of people in my life. I can take a joke. I can, mess with it. I can joke back. But at some point it gets incredibly like, you don't know me. What makes you think that you can say, oh, it looks like panties. Ooh. And like make dick jokes. We just barely met. You want me to notarize something for you and you're making dick jokes at me. Like, what is that about? It was very bizarre. It was really surreal. And I think one of the first times it happened, it caught me so off guard that I was shook. Like, I don't get shook. It takes a lot. And so it was the weirdest thing. And I called one of my coworkers, like, do I get him for sexual harassment? Because I have a sense of humor. Like, I can tell he's joking, but like, I don't want to nail someone for sexual harassment. That's just stupid if we can be adults and joke about it, But it's the workplace. So navigating those lines is something that I have found to be very interesting everywhere I've ever worked, even just hanging out, it's just very fascinating that that's not something that's easily handled by any institution. No one can teach you how to do that.
That kind of resembles the concept where people, make jokes and then they say, oh, well, you were asking for it, or something like that. You know what I mean? It reminds me a little bit of that. And it's so masculine to do that, to assume.
I mean, as a man, I sometimes wish that girls would hit on me like that. Like, like if I had a mask on my face, if they're like, hey, can I just, maybe you would breathe better with my vagina on your face, I would laugh at that hilariously. I think that's really funny. I think sometimes guys get kind of over sexual with things because they're trying to be funny and break the ice, and they want to make stupid sex jokes because we're all about fart and dick jokes. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, I understand that men are kind of out of their lane in some circumstances. Usually you should make those jokes to people that pretty well, not that people that you don't know very well, and definitely not at work where it's a place of business and you're supposed to conduct yourself in a business manner. But
it's all about tension, though. It's important.
Yeah, I think there's some tension there too, because we feel unconnected to each other from having these things on our face, and this is the way that men feel like they can make a connection to the girl is sexual, and so they go there. I'm just saying that's not. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's how I think.
So I mean, I think dick jokes in the workplace is how like you get through the day.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Like I said, it's about intention, like
Mm-hmm.
if his intention is to actually he's visualizing these things and, doing it, as opposed to like situational comedy. It's like, there's a time and a place. And if the time and a place is 100% not askew and there's an intention behind it, it kind of makes it feel a little too sticky. That's not a joke at that point. And that's like hey, like, do you, like, fucking buy me a fucking drink first, dude? Like, what the fuck, like, that's like, there's a time and a place, and there's intention, and, and that's the thing, is we have these archetypal, like, subjects that are, in groups that we can just categorize, like, men do this thing because of so on and so forth. Well, I was raised by a single mother, like, I that's not really my style. I am a man. And lucky for me that, like, so like when we, it's not just 1, 2, men, women, like I think a lot of it has to go down with, like, it's so situational on deep down, like traumatic based experiences in people's lives and stuff like that, and then people's ways of dealing with their, with those types of issues, and so, like, that guy's obviously got some fucking, some deeper seated issues and traumas that he's actually probably never touched with. And probably has a terrible relationship with women in general. Yeah, exactly.
Well, so the point that I really want to get to is not just that kind of surface stuff, because that's actually very surface. How do we, the women here and the women that might be listening, come into sacred sexuality as embracing being a sex goddess, being a creatrix? Yes. How do you walk around exuding that without everybody around you going, oh, I need that right now, I don't know why, because
I think women can be sexy with their brains and their poise and their intelligence and how they articulate sentences and words and having conversations. I think that is very sexy to me. So, I mean, I think some women are provocative in ways where they're showing off parts of their body, and then they're wanting men not to look or judge based on those things. But it's in our nature to see that and react to that, because that's how, nature is. We're in this world to procreate, to spread life, and to keep seeding life everywhere. And when we see that those things that make us excited, we react to those more. And I'm not saying that's like the fault of a woman for having big breasts or whatever, but when you dress in a certain manner, you're inviting that energy in. Does that make sense?
Well, society in general has just totally screwed up the whole entire look on the divine feminine and the goddess.
Yes.
Because if you're trying to be sexy and or whatever, you're showing off something, or you just look sexy, or you just put off a sexy aura in general, then others look at you, oh, she's a slut, oh, she's trying to get attention, or she's a hoe, or whatever the case is, or she's going extra. Like, so there's no happy medium, because society has pinned it so backwards that we can't really evolve into the goddess that Rachel was talking about. Like, how do we do that when we're constantly getting thrown back into the trash can, and they're like, no, you can't do that, you can't do that.
Yeah. Disney has also done a lot of the same, right? Taking that princess character and, enforcing it on kids and having them have specific rules and restrictions. And then also like throwing a lot of like old, like Enochian sex magic into the works as well. It's like taking, contorting old stories, and mixing it with, like, mainstream psychological manipulation to just kind of like sexualize, everybody from a really young age, boys and girls.
Yeah,
which is,
I agree, that
not good.
No, yeah, it's pretty fucked up what's going on in schools these days. We were talking to this lady in town, maybe 40 minutes from here, and she actually migrated from Bakersfield, right, in California.
Yeah.
So small world, we meet another Californian, and she was just talking about her family, and I guess her niece came to her the other day and said, Grandma, the kids in school are kissing and making out. And she's in 3rd grade. Like, this is not that is just not normal behavior for a third grader. They should be playing, not worrying about that stuff. So it's really hit the younger generations, and it's just going to continue. And I don't know how we can change that. I don't know if you guys want to throw some ideas around, but
take their fucking iPhones away, take their fucking tablets away. Don't have any fucking TV. Yeah. There you go. Problem fucking solved. That's what I did with my kids.
Refute the transhumanist movement.
Yeah, go against the fucking agendas. Do not fucking pay attention to that shit, and try to teach your kids the right way and what they should believe in and strong morals. And that's the end of the day. And if you don't fucking want to do that, then you don't want to help your kids. Them. Yeah, you read to them. Exactly. That's perfect.
Well, not even avoiding hard topics, not avoiding talks about sexuality, not avoiding books about sexuality, maybe being conscious about what you're reading, but being willing to have conversations, because that's how people learn.
On the same side of that, though, there's a huge talk on openness about gender and gender fluidity and sex right now. So the younger generation is invoked in that, and they are talking about it, and it is a part of this, because the agenda that is being painted is this type of movement into the androgynous, right? Like the transhumanist movement that we're seeing, or the fourth industrial revolution, or the way that society's going is towards that more really fluid, like you could be a fucking half giraffe or half robot, half dude, half man, half merman, half Zeusian, half whatever the fuck you want, till you're just a whole trash pie, you ain't even no, I'm just kidding. That's very rude. I don't, but like, what was I getting at with that? So they are talking about sex, and it's a big part of the younger generation to have this communication. But what I think is being missed with that is the understanding, and everyone is not into God, right? They're not into a spiritual. So they're like into the human genetics and science and the whole science movement and everything. That's where gender fluidity comes into it. And then there's this like the actual like old understanding of divinity and that like actual divine, realm, and understanding to connect that like the old yogi way, that's what's being misled with it. And it's terrible.
Yeah. I think parental guidance is the one thing that's missing in society today, because I think if parents were a little bit more involved in their kids' lives, it wouldn't be how it is now as much. Like, I have a 5th grader. She's a girl, and her and like 4 or 5 of her other friends were like, had this crush on this boy, right, in their class. And they just all went against each other and were just like being so catty and weird and crazy. And then this boy ended up bringing flowers on Valentine's Day to my daughter. Like, what kind of parent allows a 5th grade boy to bring flowers to another kid in their class? Like, to me, I was just kind of like mind blown. Like, why would you even do that? I think it just really has to do with the parents and the guidance and what they're allowing their children to do.
And maybe their level of understanding on how to even handle affection at certain ages. Because I've met people who have known each other since middle school, or they've known each other since elementary, and then they get married and are together for eons, so even just how to handle those emotions and those feelings at whatever age, and, kind of honoring those feelings, but also learning self-mastery. What do I do with this? It's like, yeah, I know it's crazy and it's confusing. I don't know, but here's things not to do, but that plays a big role too, because I can't dictate how people like each other, at what age they start to like each other. And it's just about learning how to navigate that and teaching, that it's okay to discuss it, or, having any sort of resource if they don't feel comfortable.
Yeah. Being that parental figure is so important. And the way society is structured today, in order to take care of your family, both parents need to work. which means you have to give your kid to the state for a little bit for 8-9 hours a day. Then you come home and what you have 2 to 3 hours with your kid. And if that's all the time you have, those hours are critical with your kid, and you need to be spending it with them, trying to dissect what they were taught in that state school all day, that indoctrination camp, and not being afraid, Rachel, like you said, to talk about those issues and not say, I remember a funny story when I was a kid, the Madonna video, Like a Virgin, was on TV. And so she kept, like a virgin. And I was asked to look to my mom, and I was like, Mom, what is that? What does virgin mean? She was just like, oh, it's a lion. It means a lion. So I was just like,
Virgo to Leo.
So like little things like that, like just be honest with your kid. You don't have to be graphic with them, but just like let them know, hey, this is the gist of what it means, so they're not going to go speak it out to their friend or someone else that might not really give them a good answer. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very true. Like I worked at this place called Tracker's Earth in Portland, Oregon for 5 years, almost 5 years. And it was it's an outdoor educational school where we teach kids primitive skills. And the large part, you're kind of just letting them explore in the woods and explore their creativity, their, kidness of just being, and not having them sit down in front of, the class and have to listen to the rules and sit down for an hour at a fucking time. It's like we sat down for maybe 5 minutes at a time, and it's just like there are some parents, but like the amount of kids that were going to that school and the entire, population of this city was like 2%, not even like, so, it's just insane. It's the amount of time that kids don't get to experience what they would have experienced maybe in ancient times, like going to mystery schools and being, taught about their divine masculine power and the divine feminine power. And, yeah, it's crazy. So the eye and the shape of the eye is always representative of like the canal, the vaginal canal. And that's also represented everywhere, which is beautiful and crazy.
Isn't it like the whispering eye? I just heard this recently.
We were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, wow. Yeah, let's talk about those eye stories. Come on.
That chakra is the all-knowing eye on the tree of life on Yggdrasil. That's the all-knowing eye. It's the lowest one. Because it's the most dense. It involves knowing and feeling and touching and something that's more, less mind. It's less etheric. It could whisper to you. That's still small voice.
Is that in a runic shape at all? Are there any runes for that representing? What are some feminine? What's like a good northern story of your favorite goddess?
There are quite a few. Freya and her necklace that she gets from dwarves, but she apparently bangs them all to get it. It's not a great story. It's so funny because I think Ben and I were talking about that.
To your kids.
Yeah, we're like, maybe this is how we don't acquire magical things. Yeah, that's going to be the conversation. Like, here's what not to do. She's miserable. But I think somewhere I learned that Frey and her brother, Frey and Frey, were in charge of the horse cult. And I think that's where we get nightmares, because it was a fertility cult, and they would just like have a horse party about it, because horses are a huge symbol for fertility. But they also symbolize, this is not what people like to hear, but selective breeding. You're going to be, discriminatory on, if you're very conscious of what you're taking into you, you might be like, I don't need that energy coming out. And I think that's okay. I think people our society has made it not okay, because you want to love everybody. How dare you discriminate? It's like, you're okay. It's okay to not want all of that to not just be a garbage can and just have everything come into you. So there is that aspect of, breeding, but that's also just using wisdom. If you have somebody who has really bad unresolved traumas and you've been working really hard, that's something to take into consideration, that can get passed down. So it's like, okay, is this something that we can work through? Is this something you're willing to work through if I'm going to do it? So I think that's kind of cool. I think a lot of Northern traditions get a lot of flack for that, but I'll say it. I think it's great. It doesn't mean that I'm a hater, and I don't think anybody else is a hater for doing that. It just means
I don't think that's wrong
wisdom.
in any sense. Yeah, no, that's not wrong in any sense. Not whatsoever. No, yeah. That's absolutely on point.
It's alchemy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of want to hear that story now, by the way, but maybe not.
You'll hear it eventually.
Because it's very interesting that you said like the lower part of the Yggdrasil is the whispering eye too. And in Bach Saga, they talk about the eye, or the your actual heart chakra being your penis and not your actual heart. Your heart is just your pump, and that your actual heart chakra that you love with is actually your genitals. So it's pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, Bach Saga is always about there's a lot of what's it the correct word I'm looking for?
Sexualization.
Yeah. I was thinking like penetralia or something.
Penetralia.
Just like I was trying to think of a fancy fun word for the obelisk entree. The entree of thus phallic obelisk.
Penetralia.
It's like a band.
Yeah.
I actually have a sick book called Penetralia over here.
Of course Roman does.
Oh my god. I had a question for you, Rachel, because you said that horses represent fertility. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So little like side dig, there's a birth control called Premarin, and it's actually made from the urine of mares. Mares are female horses.
What?
And so it's like they're using the thing that's supposed to represent divine fertility against fertility to stop production. That's fucking nuts.
Wow. You guys can't see it, but I'm vomiting, air vomiting.
Is that backwards?
No, you can read it.
Australia. That's nice.
Real. It exists.
Wow. What does it say? The powers to important questions?
Yeah, it's one of a series by the Aquarian Fellowship, written in like 1958 in Boston. The answers to important questions. It's actually an incredible fucking book. And it's not about it's all about like philosophy and theosophy and shit like that. Anyways, but yeah, dude.
Well, I don't think the Bach Saga is all
totally
about penis.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, if you're being led by creativity in your creative center, that would be for women, your womb. Mm-hmm. And for men, that would be whatever you have there, whatever that center is, because it's not the same. You don't really have an organ, but you still have that same, that same energy center. It's not quite genitals; those are a little bit below.
It's in the grundle.
Yeah,
the grundle.
There you go.
Yeah, the gonads.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could totally be led by creativity, and there are mystery schools that teach, follow that intuition or use that to create, which could be dangerous if you know what you're doing, or dangerous if you don't, which I think is why it's interesting. Casual sex is such a big thing. It's like great, just chaos magic all the time. People don't know what they're creating.
Yeah,
people liking all these ruts sexually and in their life. It's like, look what you keep manifesting. You're
yeah.
And there's the opposite of that too. You have like the keep like pulling or pushing out the energy and like creating these spells and alchemical things with different alchemical beings, because everything our body does is chemical exchanges and just, constant movement, and in our chemical world that we live in. But the type of testosterone and hormonal buildup that happens when you're actually not having casual sex and you aren't having sex at all, there's a lot of studies that have been going into that recently, about like the science of like, building it up. And then like guys are like getting super high off of not having sex. They're like getting really like high. They're like going really hard on it. It's a little weird, honestly.
That's you. You're doing it.
Purposefully too. I'll tell you what, out here in the hills of California, man, I talk to trees, baby. But no, like it's cool. You gotta practice it all, right? You gotta learn through trial and error, all that shit. Fuck. But no, Elaine, that's not what I was getting at. Anyway.
We lost sort of the spiritual sacredness of what sex is supposed to be. And because of that, we have just abominized it, I guess, in a way, to be something it's not supposed to be. And so I think the loss of the sacred feminine or divine feminine has to do with that aspect, because now it's like a matriarchy dominated by males, and everything has to be over sexualized with a penis, instead of having that estrogen or that female energy also, to realize that there is a higher sacred power that we should also be looking to, because if we realize, especially for men, if we realize that there's a higher sacred woman, we would probably treat women a lot differently in that respect, because we would treat them more, I would say like our mother, because we would have more respect for them. And instead we've kind of gotten to the point where there is no real respect anymore. It's just over sexualization and stimulation everywhere. You guys are weaving some webs.
It is
Very
Saturday.
important, Dan.
Buffalo and Legs, I see you guys laughing. Tell us what you're laughing about.
Just the little comments you guys make, and then
Let us in on
started
it.
the thing, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
I almost choked on my water.
Oh yeah. No, I was laughing. I didn't choke.
I was mid drink, and then she cracked a joke, and I was like, "Oh shit, I'm done."
I do that all the time. I have like the first place trophy. I love doing that. Thank you. Thank you.
Trophies.
Thank you for giving me the honor to do that for you.
Thank you. You made me feel alive.
But yeah, I thought it was very interesting when we talked to Ed Dodge too about Asherah, and the Asherah pole, the totem pole, the wooden totem that was referred to as Asherah. Yahweh, the God Yahweh, sent like a bunch of people to go destroy her and all her totems everywhere. And Yahweh is the God of the Bible. So what is with like Catholicism wanting to destroy like the sexuality of women and of men? It seems very like destructive, and I want to try to understand that more, because so many people do believe in Christianity or Catholicism or a religion, and sometimes in those religions they do practice like a sacredness with like, you should only be with one person, and not waste your seed on frivolous things. But then they also like demonize like over sexualization. Do you think like maybe over sexualization is okay, and that creates more awareness, or is the over sexualization more of a demonization?
Also, to tap onto that question, to add more onto that,
Like it,
have any of you guests had any of you amazing people, humans? Jesus Christ, I'm digging myself a hole here. Any of you motherfuckers? Sorry,
That's the wrong pronoun. That's the wrong pronoun. I don't appreciate that.
Did you guys grow up in like religious homes and religious, like what was your story with that, and have you had any direct like kind of church experiences and God experiences with sex and stuff, and how that treated you guys as a youth.
Well, I guess I'll jump in. I was baptized Catholic, but grew up Christian. And so it was, no sex before marriage type deal. And then I went through all of high school basically with that belief until I met him. And then that kind of changed. And just, I will say one thing the Catholic Church did do right is with the whole birth control thing and not allowing it. Birth control fucks you up as a woman. So I will say I will give them props on that. But other than that, I don't really practice that religion or Christianity anymore. I do believe there's a God and there is just life force energy, and we're here to harness that and just vibe out and spread love to everyone. I don't know. I don't even know where I was going to go from there, but but that's kind of like my background. Yeah, for a portion, I went through a portion of my life. I went through a time where I didn't think God existed. And I think we all kind of went through that at one time or another, or still going through it. Totally fine. But for me personally, that perspective changed, and there is God for sure. And I know that because love is real. He's real. And once you find your soulmate, it's kind of hard to deny that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I grew up in the Mormon church. I was actually baptized Mormon at age 8. And then we left the church when I was maybe 10 or 11. And I studied all kinds of different religions, went to all kinds of different churches, studied Buddhism for 2 years, and became a vegetarian for a while, did all that kind of, stuff that you do in high school to kind of experiment a bit. And I stopped believing in God for a bit and came to the conclusion that now that I was wrong, and there is some life force behind everything. But for me, in my early upbringing, the church was really about non-over-sexualizing women. Women dressed very modestly. We actually went to go get groceries down in Utah not that long ago, and we stopped at what we thought was a bookstore. It was a Mormon bookstore, and they sold dresses, but the dresses that Mormon women wear are actually really beautiful, but they're covered up and they're modest. They don't show cleavage. They cover up even their shoulders.
Very like 1950s type style.
Yeah.
I thought they were pretty cute.
Yeah. I think they're really nice. And when I see, like on Sundays, we don't go to church, but there's a church like literally like a couple blocks away. We see people walking to church. I think the women are dressed very nicely. And I think they it's something about following like that kind of archetype of wearing the garb of the role that you're in that kind of gives you that power, and that power kind of comes from within. I like that. I think that's really cool. I didn't know if that's where you were going with your comment, but that's kind of, for me, that was my example of what it was to have like that female divine energy, was modestly dressed Mormon women, apparently. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the Christian church I went to, the women never dressed like their Sunday best, so I kind of I didn't have that experience like you did. And I didn't go to Catholic church, and I'm sure they dress up for that. But
yeah, your aunt dressed up really, really nicely.
Yeah, she wore, when women in the Catholic church wear not a veil, but
it's like a head covering.
Like a head covering. And that's, I don't know what that represents.
Well, it's Mary. Mary wore the head covering because in the Jewish faith, when you go like into the temple, the women cover their hair. It's part of, I believe it's in the Old Testament. But that's like just a continuing thing. Catholic women honor that. Not every Catholic woman does that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of kind of like cleanliness.
Is that what it's linked to?
I mean, well, I would assume so, being that like you're keeping your hair out of, going all over the place or something, or it's kind of like
keeping it out of holy water.
Yeah. Keeping it out of there.
Chug it. Chug it.
There you go.
Well, in the Bach saga, like the holy water kind of is the ambrosia or the nectar of the gods is the fluids, the sexual fluids.
Yep.
So,
Whoa, I didn't know that.
yeah,
Forbidden fruit there.
and with talking from Yake, when they would actually baptize people with like the Knights Hospitallers, they would baptize them by putting sperm on their forehead and not actually water. So they would baptize them in a completely different way. Yeah.
Well, that's different.
Fun fact about sperm is if you rub it, it's sticky if you don't rub it in, but if you rub it into the skin, it actually moisturizes really well.
That's why your skin.
That's what people say. That's what the online sources say.
That's why your skin is so soft and supple.
Yeah,
I know it is. Like we really want to rub it in.
You have a beautiful face, Ramona, by the way.
One second. Let me just massage that in my arm real quick. What the
Thanks, babe.
hell? I know. Yeah, thank you for that. I don't have to go get my Cetaphil anymore.
Oh my God. I hope this
Hey, not to rub it in, but
It goes both ways, I'm just saying. Probably for the same secretion from the vaginal secretion as well. It's
Well,
also
supposed to give you superpowers, right? Isn't that what the whole
That's
Bach
ambrosia
saga
right
thing
there.
is?
Vaginal secretions?
Yeah.
Like if you, well, I believe in the Bach saga they talk about sucking your own seed, right? So,
yeah.
and then that's supposed
That's
to
how
give
you
you like
succeed.
that's how you succeed. It's sucking your own seed.
Yeah.
And then it gives you that life force energy, and then it builds up in your body, and then you become Superman and Mr. Gadget and all that fun stuff.
I wanted to get into this.
Mr. Gadget. Oh shit.
I wanted to get into
Gadget
this a little bit.
saga.
Also, is the idea of your soulmate, and I kind of want to break this down a little bit because a lot of people talk about your soulmate being like that one person that's your exact polar opposite, not necessarily your polar opposite, but your counterpart, that part of you that you're missing. And soulmate, we know soul is a reference to the sun, right? Soul is the sun. And in the Bach saga, they say that that animals have embla and humans have sperma, and the sperma comes directly from the sun. The sunlight is what gives us the sperma. I thought that was pretty interesting because when we talked to Wajid was talking about reincarnation and how we start out at like the plant life soil level. We work our way through that to the animal kingdom and then to the humans. And through that, we are supposed to ascend even higher. And then we go terrestrial and then telestial. And then even through there, we end up back at the sun again. We reincarnate back into the sun. And then through the sun, we reincarnate back into life. And so the whole idea of like your soul mate it's super interesting because of the coordination of the sun. I'm wondering if there's something there, like, did we start as like something together in the sun and we got split up, our souls got split and into different bodies when we came to this matrix or this world,
or your
you want to call
journey
it.
to the sun.
Yeah. And then we're supposed to reconnect together to get back. Is that part of like ascending, is reconnecting with that divine energy that you lost when you were birthed into the matrix? Just thoughts on that.
Separation is an illusion. So, when you like, even if you're starting in the etheric realm as consciousness and you're coming down into the material realm, it might feel like a separation because you're no longer one with everything.
Mm-hmm.
You don't feel like you're one with everything anymore. Because you're just not on a molecular level existence. So it will feel like a separation. And it's not, though. That's really only in the mind. So I think when we're talking about, and all these stories about like the Greek story where you have this mono being and it splits off, and you have to find that, and that's our twin flame, and all this stuff, and it's like, okay, but really the mono being is the consciousness of all one. So to have that, I mean, you can really be in union, divine union at any given point. And if you're looking for a partner, what you're really doing, and this is just how I see it, is a frequency match. It's just your frequency match, because we're all going to be different levels of consciousness in the material. I mean, a bird is a level of consciousness. A cloud is a level of consciousness. Even very dense beings have different levels of consciousness. I have stones. We don't think of these as conscious, but they have a level of consciousness in them because they exist. So, I mean, to me, it's more about finding and connecting with the divine and having divine union, and then just finding a frequency match. Somebody who's got your back, essentially. I think that's really more of what it's about. Yeah. You're just going through life together.
Fuck yeah. If it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no. That's an old school rule for the boys. All right. Hey man, if she ain't a fuck yes, that's a fuck no. You feel me?
And that's why you're single, Roman. And that's exactly why.
Because it ain't been a fuck. God damn it, Elaine. Damn you. But yeah, no, absolutely. Okay. Because
Buffalo, nice. You want to weigh in on that at all?
Well, your theory about all being parts of the sun, I was digging that. And then I thought about, that kind of sounds a little like it sounds a little like L. Ron Hubbard, where it's like we were all souls just drifting, and then we were like dropped in volcanoes or some shit, and then we're blown up, and then
what?
It made me think of that, and I'm like, maybe there was actually some kind of truth to that, because L. Ron Hubbard was in fact I feel like he was trying to diagnose himself, right? He was trying to come up with like a way to like go deeper and deeper into yourself to figure out who you really are, and he ended up creating this like weird cult out of it. But maybe that shit is true, and maybe we are connected to the sun like that. It is, like you said in the beginning, Dan, soul is like sun, right? It means the sun. So maybe there is some kind of connection there, and that's where we all kind of have to root.
Well, and in the human design system, their whole deal is that we get imprinted with subneutrinos. So those come from every heavenly body all the time. We're always being blasted with them. But their whole thing is that, and I was reading, you can find this in all their information, but 70% of them come from the sun. A good significant portion comes from Jupiter because it's large, but 70% comes from the sun. So there probably is very much something to that.
Yeah. The celestial body, like kind of like you could imagine like Earth is the genitals of the galaxy, and you have these different like, well, it's like, that's because there's another theory that we are the final stage, like the sperm being built up, the seed to pop out and go put our consciousness on other life forms. That's why we're trying to get to space and go out. It's because Earth has made us its perfect form to create as much consciousness as it can, to create as much technology to go out and shoot the seed. Because if you look at, Alan Watts said it. I don't know if you know this, but let's try and do an Alan Watts voice. It's not good. He said, I don't know if you know this or not, but the shape of the universe has sometimes been known as the shape of a man. Where if that's so, it doesn't have to be man. It's obviously androgynous, as gods are. There's like the perfect polarity within the perfect, divine body, right? So it can probably procreate with itself, as does a lot of goddesses throughout time, right? And whatever mythos, time, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Blanket words. Anyways, what is that? Anyways. So like, Earth could be the genitals of the galaxy. Who knows?
There's this Eternals movie, the superhero movie, and in that, like the planets are kind of like eggs or wombs in a way, and a all the people on it are there to raise the vibration of that planet so that like a titan or something can be born from that cosmic egg.
Fucking Marvel, dude! I swear to God, these fucking they're like the real philosophies going on here, real like actual things that should be talked and brought about, but instead it's used to make fucking millions of dollars and like not really truly conceptualized to people. You know, like it's like that's a great concept, and like that has been brought up and through different theories, kind of. You know, like you were talking earlier, the Wajid Hassan interview that we did, and his master, you know, said there was 9 fucking levels of consciousness to go through all, you know, and finally get to the sun. It's like, I'm sorry, I have a big problem with Disney and Marvel and shit, and so I got heated up there a little bit, but fuck them. Please, someone else talk, please, dear Lord.
So the Eternals actually brings us back to something that Dan was talking about, with like wondering about, you know, Middle Eastern traditions and the Catholics and why they're so against sexuality and things like that. And I think there is a consciousness that is hyper aware of destruction. And even those people get into bodies and they manifest. Like that level of awareness manifests in humanity. So these people are hyper aware of the process of creation and destruction, and they're just stuck on one part of it. They're like, oh, we love the destruction, you know, destroy everything. So they try to suppress, but at the same time, we're creative beings because we're actually the middle. We're meant to be the middle realm. So they, you know, they try to hypersexualize things because it's like, well, if we have to have it, we're going to at least control it because it is a necessary part of being. But I think that's really what we're getting at there. And, you know, with the Eternals and things like that, the only thing I didn't like about that narrative was that it was very focused on like, oh yes, we're growing these planets to consume them. You know, it's like it's all about destruction. In the end, it's like that's a natural process.
Yeah.
Don't be weird about it.
Equally the same. You mentioned Rachel. You mentioned twin flame. I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on what twin flame is, and because I don't think I heard about that before.
It's a very new age idea. Well, maybe it's not. It's very big in new age circles and light worker circles, because it does go back to that Greek story. You have this monad being and they split and you're trying to find your one. But essentially the twin flame idea is that you have a matching consciousness, and maybe you could incarnate on the other side of the earth, but you know and you recognize each other, and you both work on your inner stuff until you can finally meet and be together, type of thing. So you'll meet people who are like, this is my twin flame, and it's like, well, I don't know that I need the term for it, but I don't know that that's, you know, impossible. I think that's a great idea, that you could have consciousness that you have always resonated with. Maybe you've known each other in past lives, maybe not, but it is such a good vibrational match that you do end up finding each other, or you look for each other. But the only bad thing about it is that I think it can be toxic. You know, it's like, I'm trying to work on myself, so my divine masculine comes in. It's like, how about you just work on yourself and trust that it'll happen? It'll probably happen when you're not thinking about it.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off, Elaine. What were you gonna say?
Damn you, always. No, I was gonna say, wasn't it Ari Aslin that you guys had on the show that said that the Earth was birthed by the sun? Or who was
the sun was birthed by Saturn, and then I'm actually not sure. That's Saturnian cosmology, though.
Yeah.
An electric universe, and I don't know where in that realm that the Earth comes into play, but they say that definitely, you know, our current sun was birthed from Saturn, as it was like kind of going through the transition to form the set of the galaxy that is now. That's Saturnian cosmology, which I wish I was more fucking, you know, deeper on, up on, but I'm not. So, but that's you damn near, Elaine, damn near.
No, I'm pretty close.
Absolutely spot on. That's what I
more
meant to
than
say.
damn near. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely 100%.
I know. Thanks.
That was it. What about him?
That was it. Thank
What
you.
about it?
Okay.
Okay. I bet
No,
Buffalo
I was
knows.
just saying because we were talking about how different cosmology and Earth and how we're here and but the sun birthing things and 70% of what's in our universe is birthed by the sun. So yeah, I don't know. I just remember that you guys had someone on that was talking about that. I wasn't sure though on the specifics.
And with that too, I think when I think back on like some of these stories, it's like just like the Bible, like you take it very literally, because we would in mythos, we tend to like talk about gods, having certain stories or battles, but then that looks at an astrotheological level and it's happening, they're explaining stars, and then planets can also be interpreted as gods as well. So maybe the Saturnian cosmology isn't about the actual alignment of the planets itself, but maybe it was more of like an actual time on Earth when Saturn, birthed the new sun. So maybe there was like this one god, or people focused in energy in the like a golden age era, right? And then that changed, and so that's another thing that could happen with that it wasn't actually our sun birthed from Saturn. Maybe it was the worship of the sun and sun worship changed from this god over here to focus over this when there was a narrative shift or a paradigm shift.
Well, sun worship isn't even across the board, because in a lot of heathen cosmologies the sun is like, yeah, there's a sun god, he's over there. He's not even the main focus. Exactly. It's like he's just a pal. So maybe it's again that level of consciousness. I mean, you probably don't remember being a plant, but that would be a vital part of your life, is having sunlight. I have seeds that are like, put these seeds on the dirt, don't cover them, they need sunlight to grow. So I wonder if it's just like residual awareness. You learned that lesson in that past life, knowing that the sun makes things grow. And so of course it would translate to everything came from here, because that's the source of growth.
I want to touch on one thing too, before it slips my mind, as things do, because I did smoke a ginormous Dewey earlier. Thinking about astrological zodiac, right? We have the birth chart and this thing that goes way back, understanding the zodiac and astrology and its accordance to the human spirit, like describing, to try to, it's so interesting. It's so deep and interesting, and trying to even find the roots of it. It has a lot of different roots. Anywho, we're talking about twin flames and finding a partner and, to match a resonance and to match a frequency. Well, when you match a frequency from your astrological area, you find someone that resonates with your star map, your sky clock partner, your sky clock resonance, somebody within the same neighborhood of the stars that you were from when you were a part of that collective consciousness and coming down. When you bring two bodies together that are at that same resonance, then you can resonate higher and more frequency in order to have that ability to tap into your celestial energy and your celestial body. What do you guys think about the zodiac and that kind of energy play? Like, do you guys think that that's real? Like, do you guys believe in that? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I've only recently been paying attention to the sky and how it moves with each season and changes as we move through the months or the moons, or if you want to call it that. But I would say our connection to the moon and its cycles, I feel from my personal experience, as we're approaching the full moon, I feel more energetic. Like this creative energy comes to me. And if you're too busy with your 9-to-5 job or just taking the kids to go here and just crazy life, you can't pay attention to things like that. and connect to those feelings that you're feeling when there's certain constellations in the sky, or the moon is at a certain quarter of the cycle, and it's a beautiful thing when you can connect back to it. I don't know if you want to add to that.
I think that well, I was feeling with the idea recently about, I know we got into our birth charts and we got our charts read, and I was really interested in them. She has a lot of what's called hard angles.
Hard angles.
She has a lot of hard angles in her chart, which I'm still not quite sure I understand what that means. But yeah. I was listening to Crow 777 on some podcast, I forgot, and he mentioned, what about how were the stars and how is everything aligned at your conception? Mm-hmm. That's probably more significant than when you came out of the birth canal. Mm-hmm. Because probably when soul meets body.
Yeah.
But there's no way to know that. So we have 9 months on account, maybe, give or take 2 weeks, unaccounted for of time that we don't know how the stars were configured. So I don't think we're supposed to know how shit's aligned when we come into being. I think that's what makes this such a magical adventure.
Yeah. There's something beautiful to that too, because you're so right. Like, we're so fixated on the time of conception, as if, that last second was when, that spirit came into that body. But I think that we come into that body a lot sooner than that. At least we tap in and be like, yo, what's up? What up? I'm here. So I'm claiming this spot. This is mine. I bought this when I was up on Venus. I bought this here, and I need to get some shit done. So this is mine. I'll be back though. I was in the womb for 10.5 months. My mama was huge, man. I was 11 fucking pounds. I was not coming out. It was not happening. It was like, oh no.
Explains why you're late for everything.
Ain't wrong. Ain't wrong.
I'm just messing with you, man.
Right on time, baby. Right on time. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about the months, right? And how they're controlled by the moon, the moons, and how there used to be 13 of them. There's 13 cycles.
Exactly, that too.
This has to do with the divine feminine, and could also be why we're all so out of whack, is because we're no longer living according to nature and natural law. We're not living with the 13 months. We're living with the 12, and then we're totally fucking up all of those. And then we're trying to say you're this sign or you're that sign, but we're not even those signs at all. We're totally different signs. So I don't even see how astrology is actually making sense in the 12 system. It should be in the 13 system if we really want to be accurate about it. I think that's kind of why people do I always say side rail, but it's sidereal astrology. But I mean, if you just look at the word, it's side rail.
Yeah. But, no, that's something else I was getting at. I wanted to say too. Thank you for saying that. It was there's you have whatever the first part I said was, and thank you, Dan. Yeah, it doesn't make sense because we're taking one word of this ancient way of understanding the stars and the celestial body, a deep philosophy that goes on with that, and then it's been contorted into the bullshit mainstream way of understanding time and the calendar that's been congressed and congealed into one. So you have this whole block of time, this 9-month period of when you actually probably tapped in from your real location somewhere, wherever the fuck, the gooiness, thickness of consciousness. And then you also have the fact that we're not even looking at time right.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's an agenda, what I wonder if that's a plan that they had, for us to be going through this time and to try to correlate with the stars and our signs. And I am a very aggressive person, and or I'm very independent, and we're trying to find ourselves in those attributes, but in reality, it's like nothing to do with us at all, and it's just to like throw us to go a different direction.
That's they throw those like Event 201, right? Things like think tanks that have been going on for a long time, and like secret societies of how they want to try to plan to, and it's not even that conspiratorial. It's like, if you run a kingdom, right, you're going to sit in the chambers and you're going to have meetings and discuss about what's going to happen and how you're going to run shit. It just happened. That's what being a leader is. You need to sit down and talk a lot and think things out and map things out. That's how running shit works. You have to do it around your fucking house. Imagine running an entire civilization, right? So thinking things out and running these things, it's like, when you look at real documented think tanks and simulations where they run simulations on what we're going to respond to, because they fucking psychologically have been nailing it for so fucking long, they can have us down to a T because we're so fucking predictable, right? I think you're right, Elaine. Like, what if this is like this right now? Like, that astrology shit is literally a part of like a simulation they ran a long time ago just to fuck with us, dude. Dead. What the
I think so. I know. Doesn't it just piss you off? You want to break shit? I do.
No, I would say
break
that
astrology.
they probably didn't do it intentionally to be like, oh, let's take out the 13th month so that way like it fucks up everything. Intentionally, I think they did it because they didn't like whatever the representation of the 13 was, and then on top of that, they got the other stuff out of it. And, so, I mean, it could go both ways, though. For all I know, the representation, they did do it on purpose. But go ahead.
The representation, though, wasn't it Ophiuchus? And that was the goddess, like, slaying the snake and stuff. So,
but the 13 also has to do with the moon. And that is what, like, the moon is what kind of, I don't want to use the word.
13 is a lucky number, but they tried to make it like not an unlucky number.
Yeah.
And it's and if anything, it's for suppressing occultic information and esoteric information to use it for themselves, and so they can have the power. But when we figure it out and we're able to access that, ooh, what you got, baby?
What's that card?
13 is the death card, also.
Oh, that's right. Absolutely.
The birth rune.
Yeah. Not necessarily. It's more like transformation.
Yeah.
Rebirth. You can see there's in the neck of the, I don't know, is it a peacock?
This is a peacock.
Right?
Yeah. Peacocks also mean rebirth.
Exactly.
Rebirth, transformation.
Yeah.
But
you have the death hand coming out of the earth where the grass is growing. That's life. Holding onto a tree that's withering, that's death, but the tree also represents life. It's like circular. Yeah. And then Rachel, you said, which rune is this?
Arcana, that little bee up there, that's birch. That has to do with birth and creation. So it's a life cycle. Death is life.
I watched your rune episode you just recently did with Sir Balderson. You guys did that rune. That's a feminine rune.
It is a feminine rune. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, this all, I think what we're talking about is coding, because it's all about numbers, because not every civilization used the Greek systems. You have things like the Vedic system that's more sidereal. You look at ancient Northern and they don't have even half as many constellations documented. They weren't even looking at the sky that way that we know of. It's like half those records are gone anyways. How do we know? And I've gotten dreams where I've had guidance just be like, all that, it's wrong. And I'm like, but what about the math? The math is correct. The math is beautiful. And I think that math is what we're really looking at when we're looking at all this stuff. We're looking at coding. We're looking at 12 is really pleasant. 360 feels really good. All these even numbers. You look at sidereal, they're not all even 30s. That's chaotic. All these different size constellations. That's so feminine too, like just the chaos. Like every season is going to feel different. Every constellation, your relationship to the stars is going to be so different. So, I don't know that it began as programming like you were saying, Dan, but I could definitely see how it's becoming programming.
Yeah, exactly.
Like almost like allegorically created or something.
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
was first done just to get rid of the pagan system, because it was this new system that was coming in to get rid of this, what they considered chaos, and bring in order, which is the new world order, and stop like this worship of these polytheist deities and nature and all these other things, and to get rid of these certain aspects. That's why like meditation is evil, yoga is evil, all these different, like using plant medicine is evil. We have to use all these things because I think you were talking about this earlier a little bit, Roman, and it's like we need that guidance, because if we knew how to look at the stars and figure out life on our own, we wouldn't look to them and have to need anything from them. So by taking it away, now we have need for them. Now we need them to tell us what we're supposed to do, because we're lost in this fucking system that we're in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm going to break astrology. Nicely.
Yes, nicely.
Nicely.
So, because, you got to do it so people can actually, like you go too hard on it and then they're going to be like, well, like, you're hurting my feelings because I like astrology.
It's a beautiful system. And honestly, all the astrologers that I know, for the most part, are people that I absolutely adore. And they have an incredible amount of intelligence. So it's maybe less about breaking things and more about shifting our archetypes and shifting the stories that we tell ourselves. That's really what it's about. There are, like Legs and Buffalo know, I've redrawn constellations already. That's because I'm serious about that. And I did it for an eclipse. One of the eclipses was happening in Perseus, like right in Medusa's eye. And there's all this Medusa symbolism coming up in pop culture around that time and before that. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'm going to stop manifesting that right now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be looking at those stars and be like, oh, it's Perseus. It's happening right in the eye, because that's just feeding the narrative. It's just feeding it. The more astrologers look at it that way, it's like reprogram, reprogram it. And nobody's paying attention to the stars long enough to agree with what the people who began set it up as. They're like looking at these patterns of Mars going, okay, well, in springtime, that's wartime, because you don't fight in the snow. So of course you're going to recognize patterns like that and say, okay, the red god means war. Nobody's looking at that. So how can we sit here and be like, Mars, that means war? Since when? What are the signs that you're seeing that says the red god means war? Because in my Celtic mythology, the red god is abundance. He feeds people. He's got a big stick.
Yeah.
He'll protect you. So it's just, it's just about stories. It's about narrative, and it's about coding.
I think there's something to that too, in the coding and the numbers aspect of it. 'Cause like one of the greats, the Pythagoreans, the worship of numbers, it's like you can go really hard and deep on it. And you should, like numbers are really great. But you can also get side railed from that. But at the same time, it's like, wow, like it's an algorithm. Like this ether is an algorithm, and it's due to like numbers down to a certain point, and you can understand almost everything within our reality through breaking it down through numbers. And there's major coding going on, and once it's so hard to keep track of everything,
with every frequency and vibration, there's a number that correlates with it. I think that's how time traveling works, right? It's like if you can match the exact frequency and pinpoint it, that you can. That's how they time travel. Or
that's in theory exactly what the exactly like you're saying, like these physicists, like what's his name? I was just looking him up earlier. Like I hate, it's so controversial, but the Nazi bell. You guys know about the Nazi bell, right? Okay, I'm gonna say it because not everyone's shaking their head. Yes, but so everybody knows Hitler was and his whole party was into extreme occult right? They were trying to find occult knowledge. They were obsessed with occult. There was something about the mainstream narrative in physics that they just did not like. They were deep into understanding the Earth and honestly the Earth's electromagnetic grid. And, you know, they were obsessed with Tesla's work. And Atlantean. They were obsessed with understanding Atlantis and the fall of the old world. And so they had designed this machine that was shaped like a bell. And it had runes on the bottom. I can pull it. Or if you do screen share, I can pull it up, Dan. But anyways, it was said to be in the documents that it's like a Vimana. You guys know what a Vimana is? Like the old Indian pyramid style, supposed like metal electromagnetic transportation vehicles, basically a flying saucer. That was his version of their version. Sorry, of here's one. This is crazy. Oh, come on. Or I don't know if those are runes or if that's like Enochian alphabet. Do you recognize any of those, Rachel?
No, just the double solo that Nazis were using as their symbol.
Yeah. And do you want to inform peeps what
Yeah,
what
it's not
is?
Most people should know that symbol is cross-cultural. Many people have that symbol. But in the Nordic traditions, that is the S rune called Solo, and it's just two of them. It's just doubled, and that makes the sun wheel. It's also lightning, so it has to do with Thor, and it has to do with energy, just pure energy, pure life source. It's a beautiful symbol. It's too bad that it's forever villainized in people's eyes. God forbid somebody use their own cultural symbols for their war. Unpopular opinion.
We have to break the cycle. Yeah, we got to break it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like this is a really cheesy photo.
It's pretty great though.
Yeah, no, right? Well, this is our ancient ancestors. So this is the fly trap, it's in Poland. It's an abandoned Nazi base, and this is said to be the Third Reich Stonehenge that they were trying to recreate where they were doing their test to fly out the Nazi bell. The bell shape, okay? And the reason I found this was actually looking through the history of the missing bells in the bell towers through my resonance architecture study or stuff that I'm trying to build through understanding the cathedrals. It's like, where are all the bells? There's all these bell towers, but there's no bells in them. Well, bells are old resonance technology, like
Beelzebub.
Exactly. And so this is the shape of a bell, right? And so they believed that like they could harness the electromagnetics and use this as a transportation device, and that was thus later brought to us what we know as like a flying saucer type, right? And if you know the story of like Agartha and the original Agarthian story, that there's Nazis at the center of the earth, right? And they're flying around on spaceships. It's like, well, what the fuck really happened to them? Did the New World Order really get started then? And it was a settled war that was actually planned way before that. So then, that this old occultic information could really go down to where like, civilizations may be in the center of the earth. Who fucking knows?
What does this have to do with time, bro?
Math,
physicist?
Numbers.
Huh? Okay.
You were mentioning a physicist.
Yeah.
Teleportation.
Teleportation.
Oh yeah. No, exactly. Okay. So sorry. What's his name? Okay. Yeah. There was a physicist that. Here we go.
Wasn't the Nazi bell like a time traveling machine?
Yeah.
Isn't that what they?
And that's what they
think
think
for time
MK
travel.
Ultra. Oh, Thomas
and so then
Townsend Brown. Here we go. Keep going.
In the
Emily.
90s, you know that they found one in Philadelphia,
Found
like in the
what, a whale?
forest. Yeah,
What forest?
like a time
Rendlesham?
in the Philadelphia. I don't know. I don't know the specifics. I just heard the story.
The occult symbolism behind bells goes deep, right? Like you even have the crack of the Liberty Bell, which would be basically us coming over and taking the architecture that was already here. That's like the Tartaria kind of like paradigm, that they're, these old resonant architectures in these old cities, these ancient cities, because obviously the human history is a lot more ancient than we could fucking give it credit for, and that mainstream will ever get it credit for. That there was a crack in it. It's just like the cross that Jesus being put on. It's like you no longer have access to frequency and understanding of physics of the earth. You are blocked from that. The crack in the bell, the suppression of his history. The Jesus on the cross. The cross is an energetic symbol. It's used on staffs. It's used on tops of resonant buildings. It's used for alchemy and it's used for magic. And we're not able to tap into ether, which is physics, which is magic, which is numbers, which is understanding, magnetism and stuff. So anyways, Thomas Townsend Brown was an American inventor whose research in odd electrical effects led him to believe that he had discovered a connection between strong electric fields and gravity, a type of anti-gravity effect instead of being anti-gravity force. Brown observed has generally been attributed to electrohydrodynamics, the movement of charged particles that transfers their momentum to surrounding neutral particles in the air, also called ionic drift or ionic wind. For most of Brown's life, he attempted to develop devices based on his ideas, trying to promote them for time for use and for the military. The phenomenon became the Barefield-Brown effect and electrogravitics. So it's deep numbers, and that's the coding, and I really side railed there, and I do apologize.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that all these entities are trying to do all this research and they need all this equipment because there's this thing I've heard of called bilocation. Like, I think we can do what they're looking to do if we actually put the spiritual work in. I bet we could do all that stuff.
I think they need us with the technology. I think they need this paired with the technology.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because I think that's why MK Ultra was all about harnessing children.
Yeah.
Like they need that open human spirit to pair with tech or something. I think also the movie Monsters Inc. When I heard that one occultically broken down, I was shat the bed. I was like, you're telling me that the movie was all about harnessing children's energy. Like, and then more powerful the laughter is. So then they hide the shadow, because they
feed off anxieties. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
They feed off anxieties and hide in the shadows and all that weird shit.
All right, Robin.
What was that one movie that was it was Danny from The Shining and he was older.
Oh, the second Shining?
Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep.
That is fucked up.
Fuck that movie.
I'm gonna watch that.
You're gonna trip out.
That is
same. It's like Monsters Inc., but like rated R version.
Like with real people and real kids.
Don't watch that movie.
It's fucked up.
Don't watch that. You'll do like a whole fucking episode on how much you hate that shit more than Elon Musk. I swear.
Whoa. Nothing I hate more than Elon Musk. Nothing.
Exactly. Until you watch Dr. Sleep.
I fucking hate him. Anyways, all the dogs got wild. Come here, Zuchi boy. So I have this in one of my notes.
All right. Is this going to connect back to the divine feminine, though? Otherwise,
yes. Menstruation being used as sacrifice.
Okay. Go ahead.
Form of
Carry
sacrifice. On. Is that a thing that you guys have experienced, or that y'all have experienced with your the blood? Like, what's the symbology behind the blood, and has a spiritual pertinence? And if you feel comfortable sharing, all right.
Oh my God.
That was that much too fast?
I wasn't going to make it weird earlier bringing it up, but I can.
Yeah. I personally haven't done any like occultic things with my blood. I'm barely like starting to reconnect to my cycle, and who knows, maybe one day I'll end up collecting my blood and giving it back to the earth. I know that's a thing that I've heard. I don't see what's wrong with that. But Rachel, I'm sure you're more knowledgeable than I am in that topic. So
I'm into some weird magic. I probably wouldn't know this. No, I have read what you were talking about, giving it back to the earth. It's rich in nitrogen. So if you water it down, because it can be really strong, you can use it in your plants, and that should be cool. I was thinking about it earlier because it's interesting that abortion's being pushed, and not to get off on that train, but really to focus on the fact that they want stem cells. They push stem cell research for that. But there are tons and millions of stem cells in menstrual blood. And that just gets thrown out. You know, nobody's collecting that. But that would be probably the most pure source for it, instead of waiting till you mess up, you know, to collect something like that. But yeah, there are things that have to do with menstrual blood. It is very sacred in some cultures. There is a thing called the red tent. You may have heard of that book. I haven't read it, but excuse me. There is a whole movie out about it. There are groups all over, women's groups, and they just hang out around that time and month and be women about it. It's probably a little more deep and sacred than that, but I haven't dove into that. There is a video out by Teal Swan talking about menstrual blood magic, which I don't know is a great idea to be putting on YouTube. That's some chaos magic right there. Here, let me educate you this, and you know, good luck, have fun. It's like,
what else can we do with menstrual blood? Can we make micheladas or something? Or
you know, I don't know about cooking with it. I probably wouldn't. It's not
Cakes
like it's
of light.
placenta casserole.
That's some like Marina Abramovich like shit right there.
into some hollandaise if you put it on a double boiler with some butter.
To me, it's kind of like the whole eating of the placenta thing, right? I mean,
yeah. And
is there a way to like recycle it?
Yeah, but it's not on fucking enchiladas. It's not on enchiladas.
No, he said micheladas, like a beer and spice and. Hey, I could get down with that. You make some mead. You know, hey, you could have sacraments from, you know, not just in. Anyways,
I mean this in like a serious way is by reconsuming it. Are you like giving your body back those cells?
Like sucking seeds,
because like you're talking about how you're getting rid of a lot of stem cells in the menstrual blood. So that's what I'm saying. And by consuming it, are you replenishing your body in some way? That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, you are. And I think I met some people in a group a couple of years ago who were very open about blood magic. So I talked to them just because I was curious about their experience. And it's something that I would be really careful about, allowing other people to consume that. That's where you get like real life vampires who, you know, blood play and stuff like that. Because there is a psychic bond that can happen. And that can be really, from what they described, they're like, that was insane. It wasn't great for everybody involved because it doesn't sound like they were very smart about it. Like we're trying to make a cult. And it's like, well, now we're all mentally connected. And I don't know that was working out. So I don't know how long that bond stays active. I don't know how long, you know, I don't know anything about that, but I know that can happen. So,
do you think there's any correlation between the whole sacrifice of the egg and then like the sacrifice of the son, or the sacrifice of the you know, in ancient rituals, they did a lot of sacrifices. Do you think that symbolism of like the sacrificing of the egg?
I've talked about sacrifice a lot on a few things. And I think it's more what it really is when we're looking back is just a reverence for life, death, life. Like in nature, when you have, let's say, an old or, you know, a hurt, injured animal at the end of a herd that a predator gets a hold of, that's a sacrifice, because all of life is happening, but it can't all be sustained, so it does have to give itself up for other parts. So in that sense, things do get sacrificed. So when we have a barbecue, that is a sacrifice. So it's just about having that reverence. So maybe we do have these rituals, and maybe we do have certain things that we do to commemorate that, and really use it to see the bigger picture. Certainly. I think it's an appropriate way to look at it.
Okay.
I agree. We were having a discussion right before this. We did a 2-hour show with Juan and Gabe and Mark from MFTIC, and actually a lot of things that we've talked about this evening we kind of touched up on in the show too. But
especially for
sacrifice. You, huh? Yes. Sorry. Yeah, no, I was kind of busting off that. We had a whole 2-hour combo. I didn't even bring up a lot of stuff I want to bring up, so I could get a little spread on that. But the sacrifice of without us knowing it, without us doing it, like we live in this time that we're doing these kind of like rituals without us realizing it, because it's so a part of the societal custom. It's alarming, but when you can step back from that, because I went and did the vegan plant-based thing for almost 3 years, 2.5 years, almost 3 years. And it was during that time was incredible. Like a step back from like, I was like disgusted with like, the meat for a while. Like I really was like, I was just taken aback by all of this like gluttony that was there. And, I since have been back on that train, and it's kind of like this like strange wheel. It's got like a little flat part over here, and you get all the way damn near, you're almost full rotation. And then you get stuck on that flat part. You need a little push again. Right. And so just, I don't know, like there's something with this like the sacrifice and just like an intention of it, like we have to be really fucking careful when we're sacrificing, the low, it's like the low part. It's like sacrifice. I don't know. I'm really mixing up my words here, but it's really deep, and it's hard. It's some energetic stuff.
Yeah. You can't sacrifice something that doesn't belong to you. What are you losing? What are you giving up? So when we're talking about, if we're talking about satanic cults and practices where they're doing these sacrifices of animals or children or, men, women, whoever, the only way that could ever be considered a sacrifice is through coercion, is by convincing somebody, you want to do this. You want to give your life for this.
Wow.
You're cool with this, because otherwise it's not a sacrifice. You're not losing anything in it. So it's kind of inferior magic in that sense, because it's nothing that you're giving up. It's a little pathetic.
Wow, that's so true. That's an incredibly important thing that I'm gonna ring that bell on. Like that's and like the black is part of that black magic when you have convince somebody that they that they need to sacrifice, and it's for the greater good of everyone else. That's like the really weak part. Like that's the really dark part. That's so true. Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Roman, you're too much for me, man. Sacrifice. So do you think like sacrifice can be used in good context? Is there, if you're sacrificing like your sheep that you raised to get something out of it, is that okay? Or is it like, kind of explain that a little bit more, like the differences between good and bad sacrificial. I mean, you explained the bad part, maybe explain what a good sacrifice would be.
I mean, you're starving and you have animals you can consume. that would be, if that was the only method that you could use. I mean, now people are finding out, I think Snake Jones was talking about in one of our chats, somebody that was sustaining themselves just on energy and air. So, which is pretty next level. So, that's what I would say, if it's your life, but you still have to make that choice. Is it worth me killing this for my survival? Is that a sacrifice that you can make? That's completely up to you. If
I think that ties back into with your karmic debt also.
Totally.
Yeah.
What you do to the earth while you're here.
I think it could be a beautiful thing, especially if it's something you've raised yourself and you've given a good life. And when it comes time to take that animal and process that animal, you create some kind of ritual in a way where you say thank you to the animal and thank you for the sustenance that you're about to provide me, and just give it a nice way out, not like the factory system where they just pile in a bunch of chickens and just cut their neck, throw them in, like this giant vat with other chickens. No, you can make it a beautiful process. And same with hunting animals. I think if you hunt in a way where it is a ritual and you give thanks, it can be a beautiful thing. It's all about the intention, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And I think and I've said this before too, internally, we talk about sacrifice, things that we love, when we're going through an internal transformation. It's completely acceptable to sacrifice things like victimhood and trauma and pain. That's all valid, because the only reason you're holding on to it is because it's such an integral part of your identity. So that's completely a worthy sacrifice to make.
Yeah. I think we're going to kind of wrap it up right here, right on the sacrifice part. But, because, that's how we roll. But no, I wanted to have everybody say like what they believe the divine feminine is to them. And then we'll wrap up with that. And then we'll do plugs and all that stuff. Buffalo and Lakes, why don't you go ahead and start? And what does the divine feminine mean to you when you hear that word? What does it make you think of? What feelings does that bring up? And kind of go with that.
Sure.
I would say for me, it's someone who is deeply connected with themselves and their creative power. Kind of a balance of masculine and feminine energies. You accept your shadow side, but you don't let it rule you. But you're just full of creativity, being vulnerable, living freely, authentic. That's what I think. Honoring your body and your cycles. That's what I think the divine feminine is.
Yeah, I think divine feminine is the balance of the masculine, the receiving end of, the giving end, I guess you would say the negative charge to our positive charge, the thing that gives our yang, the yin, the balance. So whatever that is, however that manifests, I think as long as if you're in a woman's body and you're really feeling that and you're giving off that divine power, people will feel it and be receptive to it. So I think it has to do with that energy as well.
Elaine?
When I think about it, I kind of reminds me of all the different archetypes of, being the maiden and the queen and the huntress, and kind of pulling bits and pieces from each one of those things to make the complete energy being that the best one you can make, I guess, or create, whatever. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it, actually. I feel like a lot is pushed on toward women having to be super feminine or follow the certain stereotypes in a sense. And I don't think that that's really necessary, but yeah, I don't know. You go for it, Rachel.
No, I love what you're saying because I think you're right. Because it's a pure existence. It's being, it's presence. It's absolutely creativity, but I do admit I love the destruction part of it too, because you can tear something down and make something new out of it. Then that's an incredible ability. So I think that's what I think about when I think about the divine feminine.
Excellent. Roman.
I think about my mama. I love my mama. I think that God is probably androgynous, but probably mostly a woman. If it were
That's
anything.
what I was going to say. Yeah.
I think we can all come to that conclusion. It's like, I think men took over the world at one point, through their jealousy and through their lower vibrational things. And there's a shift that happened. And when that shift happened, this major divine connection was lost. And therefore we lost the connection to the mother. And that's why we really have mommy issues and trauma and connection issues and compatibility issues and just fucking issues left and right. But once you start to connect more with your body and nature and all of those good and beautiful things, then
Harmony.
Baby, you tapped right in, baby. Let's go.
Harmony.
Yep.
That's what that was, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say divine feminine to me is kind of about that feminine energy, that information, that knowledge that exists. I connected kind of Sophia with Ashura and Akka and the Akashic record and the knowledge that we all possess in this realm that we live in. And so this knowledge has kind of been taken from us existentially, but it still exists within us that we can connect to, but we have to seek it out and look for it and acknowledge it. And like what you're saying, woman is the creator. She is God. She is the creatrix. So I think that's another part of it that we kind of forget. It takes two to tango, right? You can't just create shit from one, so you got to have two. So
hermetically, inside as well as out.
Yeah, takes two. And so that's what it is to me. So thank you guys all for joining us. Rachel, go ahead and shout out anything you got going on. Tell the people where they can find you and all that good stuff.
I'm on Minds at Valkyrie Sparks, on Telegram as Sunforge, and you'll find most of me chatting it up on Odins Alchemy. We're going to be doing the Poetic Edda, masculine and feminine point of views, starting this next month. And I'm on Flow States. Going to hop on to some Weaving Spiders for that. So.
Excellent. Buffalo and Legs, what you got going on?
So we are False Reality Check. I'm Buffalo and she is Legs. We just talked to John Paul Rice today. That was pretty fun. And we have some other great episodes coming up. But we can be found on Rockfin and everywhere podcasts are.
Yeah, everywhere podcasts are sold. We're on the socials, FRC Pod. We're on Telegram at False Reality Check. That's about it.
Oh, and people can always email us. We like to get funny emails from people or stuff. So it's FRC podcast.
FRC podcast at protonmail.com.
There we go.
Thank you guys for having us. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, Elaine, what you got going on?
Oh, same old thing.
Excellent.
No. Yep. Thanks for having us. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for joining us. You can catch us Rising from the Ashes. Patreon. Go check out our Patreon. On Patreon, right? We got cool new shit up there that's not on the regular feed. So $3 a month. Go get you some.
Wait, $3?
Yeah. One's only.
Yeah, baby, let's go. Yee-hoo. For real though, go sign up. It's really great.
All
We got individual shows, all that shit. Let's go. Have a good night. Thank you guys, everybody. This is way better than I thought it was going to go.
All right. Thanks, Fire Tribe, for joining us. And wake up.
Wake up.
The ashes. Wake up.